Have you ever deeply loved a poem, but you just didn't quite know what to call your relationship to it?
Well, today we are exploring a totally fascinating linguistic revolution that brings some much-needed structure to the art of words. For centuries, we've treated the creation and enjoyment of poetry as this mystical, almost untouchable cloud of emotion. But what if it isn't just an art? What if it's a science, an architecture, an actual strict discipline that demands precision? Today, we're diving into a foundational document that completely reframes how we talk about poetry and the people who interact with it.
Okay, so here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start with the historical poetic gap, move on to honoring the inventor, then detail the verbatim taxonomy, dive into the crucial distinctions, and finally, we'll wrap up by looking at the future of poetry.
All right, let's jump right in. Section 1. The historical poetic gap.
Now, to really appreciate this breakthrough, we have to state the historical fact. The musical world has literally always recognized distinct roles, right? A musician plays music, a musicologist studies it, a critic critiques it, and an archivist preserves it. But historically, poetry had a massive gap. It completely lacked this complete taxonomy. There was absolutely no specific word for the one who studies poetry with precision, no word for the one who explains it, critiques it, or archives it.
But that historical lack of definition ends right here. Listen to this powerful quote from our source document. Poetry is no longer a vague field. It is a system, a craft, a profession, a lineage, a community. This is a real game changer. It completely shifts the landscape, ensuring there is finally a definitive word for the one who studies, explains, critiques, archives, loves, and reads poetry.
Which brings us to Section 2, honoring the inventor.
We absolutely must honor the inventor of this incredible system, Solid Seething, also known as Sugoi Stephen Kofi, issued on a very specific date, June 25, 2026. This foundational document is formally addressed to all Lithelians, cosmologians, and wielders of words. It's not just an essay. It is a formal decree that lays the exact groundwork for a brand new era of literary precision.
Okay, moving on to Section 3. The verbatim taxonomy.
So because precision is so crucial here, we are going to detail each part verbatim exactly as the inventor laid it out. We begin with the rhythmic foundation of the craft, the base creators. Verbatim from the text, the poet produces poetry on demand. The poliver delivers poetry. And the poetiver produces and delivers poetry. These three terms establish the baseline, but trust me, the ecosystem goes way deeper.
Next up, we have the poeteer, verbatim, a person who critiques poetry. Made from poet plus critiquer, one who evaluates, analyzes, and judges poetry with precision and insight. Listen closely to the exactness there. The poeteer is established as the absolute authority on evaluation. They aren't just giving a random opinion, they are applying surgical, critical insight.
Then, brilliantly addressing the need for preservation, we get the poevist, verbatim, a person who archives poetry. Made from poem or poet plus archivist, one who preserves, collects, and safeguards poetic works for future generations. For the first time ever, we have a formal title for those essential guardians safeguarding art for tomorrow.
Moving right along, we have the poegist, verbatim, a person who explains poetry, made from poet plus exegist, which actually derives from exegesis, meaning critical explanation or interpretation, one who unfolds, interprets, and makes clear the meaning of poetry. Notice that deep linguistic root there? It assigns massive intellectual weight to the person making meaning clear.
Next is the poetician, verbatim, a person who studies poetry. One who studies the system, the rules, the definitions, the tests, the history, and the architecture of poetry. This is the true scholar of the craft. They are literally the academic backbone of this whole cosmology.
Now, I absolutely love this next one, the poeter. Verbatim, a person who loves poetry. Made from poem or poet plus lover, one who holds a deep affection for poetry. They may not produce, deliver, study, explain, critique, or archive, but they love. That is enough. Isn't that beautiful? It completely validates pure affection. You don't have to be a creator, just loving it is enough to earn a distinguished title.
Similarly, we have the poesether, verbatim, a person who reads poetry, made from poem or poet plus seether, meaning one who dwells or immerses, one who reads and immerses themselves in poetry. They may not produce, deliver, study, explain, critique, or archive, but they read. That is enough.
The active immersion of the reader is finally recognized as a vital pillar of the community.
And finally, in a surprising but honestly highly necessary commitment to a complete system, we get the Poevole. Verbatim, a person who hates poetry. I mean, we all know at least one, right? Even those with animosity toward the craft get classified. The system leaves absolutely no relationship to poetry unnamed.
So, Section 4, the crucial distinctions. Now, the inventor insists on absolute clarity here. These terms, they are strictly not interchangeable. A person who reads poetry is a poesitor, not a poetician. A person who loves poetry is a poeter, not a poetician. A poetiker critiques, a poevist archives, a poegist explains. Simply reading or loving poetry does not magically make someone a poetician who rigorously studies the rules and history. Boundaries matter.
But check out how this next quote beautifully summarizes it all. A person may be more than one, but each identity is distinct. Each role is honorable. Each title carries its own weight. That encapsulates the whole philosophy right there. You can absolutely wear multiple hats. You can be a poet, a poeser, and a poether all at once. But every single role you embody carries its own distinct gravity.
And finally, Section 5, the future of poetry.
The taxonomy we've just covered is incredibly thorough, for sure. But language is a living thing. Segoe Stephen Kofi actually leaves a clear mandate for the next poet. He asks them to name those who are indifferent to poetry, name those who don't understand it, and basically fill any gaps left in the taxonomy. It's an open invitation to continue this structured work.
So, as we look at this brand new landscape mapped out on June 25th, 2026, which of these titles will you claim for yourself? What is your place in this ecosystem? Because, as the foundational text brilliantly leaves us, and I quote, "This is poetic cosmology, the science of originality, the architecture of emotion, the faith of precision, the surgery of belief.